Welcome to the MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, presented by Coca-Cola.
Welcome to another week of MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, presented by Coca-Cola here on the MEAC Digital Network, streaming on ESPN+. Happy Saturday, folks. My name is Mitch Brown, and she is the one and only Jasmine McCoy. And boy, do we have a show for you all at home today. There are 3 weeks left in the regular season, and there's a new team atop the MEAC standings. Those Bulldogs, they're barking.
Last week was wild if you were watching. I know we say it every week, but when conference play gets going in the MEAC, it's any given Saturday or Thursday for that matter, but we've got a lot to talk about after South Carolina State knocked off North Carolina Central, plus the teams behind them are battling their way to stay and go and try to make an effort for Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you add in the thriller between that Norfolk State and Morgan State showdown. Popcorn was popped and punished. Coming up, though, after this quick huddle, we're going to get into all of the action. You're watching Countdown to Kickoff on the MEAC Digital Network, sponsored by Coca-Cola. We continue here on ESPN Plus after this break.
Welcome back to the MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, sponsored by Coca-Cola. I'm Jasmine McCoy in the studio with Mitch Brown. We've got a doubleheader between Morgan State and Delaware State, followed by South Carolina State at Howard. Before we dive into these really good games cooking up for us today, let's take a look at last week's scores around the league.
Of course, South Carolina State beats North Carolina Central 24-21. The final in this one, it's the first-ranked win as Bulldogs head coach for Chennis Berry. They move to the top of the MEAC standings at 2-0 in conference play. Eric Phoenix just continues to be in fuego. 321 yards and 2 touchdowns on 26 of 36 passing, plus 60 yards on the ground and another touchdown. Both TD tosses went to Caden High, who eclipsed over 100 yards receiving, but Phoenix named this week's FCS HBCU Plus National Player of the Week after this performance. The Bulldogs take over the MEAC's top spot with their 5th straight win.
We always talk about having a fast start. I thought our young men started fast and did some really good things in all 3 phases. When you look at us, offensively, I thought we did some good things. Defensively, I thought we, played very, very well, especially in that first half. And then special teams, we were able to do some things in terms of field position battle. But all in all, we found a way to win a football game. Our philosophy around here is just try to find a way to go 1-0. And it's process for us rather than outcome. We just focus on the process, and everything we do is about going 1-0.
Howard put the clamps on Delaware State last Saturday, 38-0, 38-piece nugget for you. The final in this one, the Bison improved to 4-5 on the season and 1-1 in conference play. They're going to have to run the table and get some help to win the conference again. Jay-Sean Scroggins went off, 300 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air, plus a little touchdown on the ground. But that defense, they went crazy. Robert Jones picked off not 1, but 2 C.J. Henry passes, a good bounce back for the Bison as they look ahead to another must-win game today.
It was time to come out and just play to our full potential. Guys be in the gaps, be where they're supposed to be, tackle, cover. We had 2 turnovers too as well. So they just wanted to come out and be stingy and defend every blade of grass and play to the capabilities of what we thought our defense would have a chance to play to all year.
Norfolk State and Morgan State ended up being a shootout, exactly the opposite of what I predicted last weekend. What if I told you Norfolk State was up 24-3 in this game? Jalen Daniels hit Jaquez Jones to go up 3 scores, but here come the Bears. The offense, it was in the mud for weeks, but they scored 25 straight to take the lead in this one. NSU would reclaim the lead after Elijah Mitchell caught a 10-yard touchdown toss from Jalen Daniels, but late in the 4th, down 3, Sar Bundima puts the kick through the uprights to send this game to overtime. But in the free period, NSU matches Morgan State's touchdown. They go for 2 in the win. The Jalen Daniels pass is incomplete. Morgan State improves to 4-5, 1-1 in MEAC play. NSU falling to 3-7 in the conference play. And a shout out to Elijah Williams on becoming the all-time sack leader at Morgan State with 29 career sacks.
We had 3 turnovers pretty much in the red zone or the high red zone, and I want to say the first quarter of the game. And they were able to capitalize on those turnovers, got us down 24-3. And the guys knew we weren't playing our best. It wasn't a whole lot of yelling and screaming at halftime. It was one of those deals. Hey, let's come play ball and see what happens at the end. And the guys responded, and we did just that.
Good football game. It's just this point somebody had to lose, and he had his football team. They played really, really well. We got off to a good start. They fought back. We fought back. It was back and forth, kind of like our first game in MEAC play. That's just how it's going to be in this conference. That ball bounce your way sometimes it don't, but you got to be able to win the close football game.
It's time to take a look at our MEAC Players of the Week, presented by Coca-Cola. Our Offensive Player of the Week, Howard quarterback Ja'Shawn Scroggins. He threw for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns in the win over Delaware State, adding 60 yards on the ground and another touchdown to that total. Have a day, Ja'Shawn.
His teammate Robert Jones III takes home the Defensive Player of the Week honors after a 2-interception, 2-pass deflection performance. Dominant on the outside, playing lockdown. Meanwhile, Morgan State kicker Sar Bundima was named Rookie of the Week after knocking down his first 2 collegiate field goals.
South Carolina State's Cam Johnson is the Offensive Lineman of the Week with a 90% blocking grade and 4 pancakes, baby. His teammate Kyle Gallegos is once again Specialist of the Week after a strong kicking week.
All right. 4 pancakes. Hope the syrup comes with it. When we come back, we welcome in Emery Hunt to break down the parity we're seeing play out here within the MEAC this season. Plus, we preview our noon kick coming up next here on ESPN Plus. You're watching Countdown to Kickoff, sponsored by Coca-Cola on the MEAC Digital Network. Welcome back in the MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, powered by Coca-Cola. Jasmine, you remember when we were on set back in July for Football Media Day and we saw the predicted order finish?
Yeah.
No surprise. It's turning out to be another competitive year in the league. Let's take a look at the conference standings coming into kickoff here today. South Carolina State coming in at 6-2, 2-0 in conference play overall. Right behind them, North Carolina Central 6-3 overall, 2-1 on the year. And here's where it gets dicey. Howard at 4-5, 1-1. Morgan State also 1-1. At 1-2, it's Norfolk State hanging on, trying to stay in there at 3-7 as well. But Delaware State 0-2, 1-8 on the season overall.
Yeah, Mitch. Week to week, mostly we're seeing competitive games across the board within the MEAC. But let's bring in our guy, analyst Emery Hunt. Emery, you're seeing this from the press box each week. What's your take on the state of MEAC play?
Well, listen, I don't think people understand the significance of how big that win versus North Carolina Central was for South Carolina State. You're talking about the 21st ranked team in the FCS, a reigning multi-time Celebration Bowl participant in South Carolina State, who went to the Celebration Bowl a couple of years ago, came in, new head coach Chennis Berry, and just did a fantastic job of taking care of business and put the whole league on notice that, hey, there's a new big dog on the block, and his name is South Carolina State. I said that last episode, but when you think about the significance of this in the MEAC, now you have 3 1-loss teams, and for South Carolina State, it's all laid out in front of them because the 3 1-loss teams are North Carolina Central, whom they beat. You have Morgan State still on the schedule, very good defensive football team, scrappy team as well. And you have Howard, whom they played this weekend. So this was a monumental game, not only in the MEAC, but in the FCS as a whole. We talked about South Carolina State doing a great job out of conference, beating a team from the OVC, beating a team from the SoCon, and taking down the 21st ranked team in the country in North Carolina Central. So not only does this send shockwaves nationally, but also more importantly in the MEAC, because now it opens the door for a whole host of new competitors to vie for those top 2 spots in the conference.
All right, Emery, we appreciate you. We'll check back in with you in just a couple of minutes here on the show. Now, Jazz, let's take a look at the game coming up at the top of the hour. It's Delaware State taking on Morgan State. The Bears have new life after that come-from-behind win over Norfolk State last week.
And because of that dub, everything is still on the table for Morgan State at 1-1 in conference play. A win over Delaware State will keep them inside the top 4. Morgan State's defense has been great all season. Elijah Williams has been a monster once again this year. Delaware State's been struggling on offense, so they'll have to find a way to score touchdowns in this one. But whether it's a shootout or a defensive battle, both coaches say they've got to be prepared for whatever style this game takes on.
I know Coach Wilson to have those guys prepared to go. So we're gonna, put a game plan together. Come out. It's we're back at home, so we got to try to protect our home turf and with whoever we have out there playing, that's what we're going to do. So we'll be ready. We'll be prepared.
Like I said, the MEAC play, man, it's tough. There are no easy weeks. Delaware State's coming off a tough loss to Howard, but you can see what Coach Hall and those guys are doing on the field. And as far as preparing those guys are young. We're young, but they're fighting. They're getting after it. So we have to be sound in all three phases to have a chance to win the ball game.
Kickoff coming up right at 12 o'clock here on ESPN+. But when we come back, we preview the final matchup of the day. It's South Carolina State and Howard. Yeah, we're licking our chops for that one. It's another big one. You're watching MEAC Countdown to Kickoff on ESPN+.
Welcome back to MEAC Countdown to Kickoff. Only 2 games on the schedule today. Our final matchup is the 3:30 slot. South Carolina State, Howard, Washington, D.C. South Carolina State has been on a roll. 5 straight wins coming into today, but Howard is looking to repeat as conference champs. It's that point in the season where this game right here, it's a must-win for both programs.
Yeah, it is. And for SC State, this is a game that can strengthen their cushion atop the leaderboard because it'll give them the tiebreaker over Howard and NC Central. But for Howard, a move to 2-1 in conference play plus that tiebreaker over South Carolina State would be huge. You all at home remember how things played out last year. So when we talk tiebreakers, know that they will factor in here down the stretch.
Let's check in with Howard head coach Larry Scott and South Carolina State head coach Chennis Berry from earlier this week on the coach's call.
The one thing you got to be able to match, they got great team speed overall at all positions. The team speed is what you see right now when you turn on the tape. And these guys are fast, they're physical, they're explosive on offense, they're twitchy and run around and make plays defensively, and they have a lot of erasers.
Guys are locked in. They know what's at stake. Our young men know that when we go up to D.C., last time we checked, Howard University was the last defending MEAC champ. So we know we have to go up there ready to play.
And kickoff is set for 3:30 p.m. in this one right here on ESPN+, a big-time game with a lot of big-time players.
Yeah, that's right, Jazz. Let's bring in Emory Hunt once again to talk about those big-time players to watch for in this showdown. Emory, with the performances that we've seen in the conference over the past couple of weeks, who do you think NFL scouts are paying attention to in this matchup?
Listen, I love talking NFL draft prospects because I've always said the world is bigger than these Power 4 conferences at the FBS level. And in the MEAC, there's always some top-tier talent that will find themselves playing on Sundays, whether it's in the NFL or even playing in these new spring leagues like the UFL or even Canadian Football League as well, because there's a ton of talent in the MEAC that's going to get pro opportunities. But South Carolina State, for me, has 2 guys that you want to keep an eye on this weekend. Linebacker Aaron Smith got an invite to the East-West Shrine Bowl following the footsteps of other South Carolina State Bulldogs that have played in postseason All-Star games, and he is someone that goes sideline to sideline. He's instinctual. He's someone that can make plays on both ends of defense, and when I say that, I'm talking about stopping the run, also dropping back in coverage. He can blitz. He can do a lot of great things that you want to see your linebacker do at the professional level. His quarterback, Eric Phoenix, was someone that really stood out to me at Benedict, how his leadership skills translated to the on-the-field play. He was great for Coach Chennis Berry at Benedict. He went to Murray State, transferred into South Carolina State, and we saw last week what an Eric Phoenix-type led offense can do. Over 300 yards passing, led the team in rushing as well, over 60 yards rushing, and this is someone, to me, that's showing he can do it well in terms of throwing the football, throwing your team to victory, but in case of emergency, he could break that glass and hit you with the run game as well. So he is someone that fits today's game of efficient passing, elite mobile ability, and a guy that shows up big in the most crucial situations that you want to see for your football team.
Thanks, Emory. When we come back, we will take a look at other sports around the MEAC. You're watching the MEAC Countdown to Kickoff on ESPN+. While things continue to heat up on the gridiron, action on the volleyball courts is equally exciting. The Howard Bison remain atop the MEAC standings with just 2 games remaining before the conference championship on November 22nd through the 24th.
Yeah, Coppin State, Delaware State, and Norfolk State are all jockeying for 2nd through 4th as we approach championship weekend. Speaking of championships.
Yes, and just last weekend, the MEAC crowned the men's and women's cross-country champions at the DSU Outreach and Research Center in Smyrna, Delaware. The Norfolk State Spartans won the men's title for the fifth, and I mean fifth consecutive time, and 17th overall, and the Lady Spartans went back-to-back, claiming the women's titles for the fifth time in program history.
And while the Spartans won the team title, we had an Eagle and Bison bring home the gold medals. North Carolina Central's MEAC Countdown won the men's 8K race with a championship record time of, get this, 23 minutes, 18.2 seconds. Super fast right there. Howard University Bison Jocelyn Crosby won the women's gold in the 5K race, also setting a new championship record time of 17 minutes, 15.1 seconds. Wow. Crosby's finishing time was 1 minute, 10 seconds faster than the 2023 fastest run. And
in women's bowling, the reigning MEAC champions, the Hawks of Maryland Eastern Shore, are on a roll. Under new head coach Ronald Sims, UMES has finished in the top 3 in 2 of their 3 tournaments this season and claimed 6th at the Track Cat Clash behind top-ranked teams.
In basketball season, it is tipped off, and with 16 programs playing daily, you know there's going to be a lot of action to follow. So for the latest scores, updates, recaps, and players of the week, and more content, you can check that all out on MEACsports.com. When we come back, we'll finish this show up with our predictions for this week's games and look ahead as this season continues to roll on towards the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. You're watching MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, powered by Coca-Cola on ESPN+. Welcome back into MEAC Countdown to Kickoff. We're wrapping up here as we get ready for kickoff. Just getting started for the day. Let's go ahead and pick these games. We'll start with the noon kick. It's Delaware State, Morgan State. Football is so weird, right? Delaware State, they put up 35 points on South Carolina State, but got blanked by Howard last week. Now, Morgan State, they put up 30 points for the first time since October 5th. Can they do it again this week, Jazz?
I'm going to go with Morgan State. Okay. I say Morgan State because this is a team that has won 13 out of 15 games. So they're on a win streak here, and that dates back to 2008, so not too long ago. And quarterback Tosh Smith just seems very comfortable. This is his sophomore season. He played outstanding against them last time they did in 2023. And of course, Morgan State, they need to build momentum. They're in that spot in the standings where they could really use momentum, and I think they'll actually do that against this Delaware State team.
Yeah, I think it's the front seven for Morgan State when I look at this game. Of course, we've talked a lot about Elijah Williams, but when I think about the defensive front with that linebacking core that Morgan State has and the way that they're able to dig in and kind of load the box up no matter the opponent, that's what they're going to do this week is load the box up, stop the run, kind of make Delaware State one-dimensional. I'm taking Morgan State in this one, and the offense is encouraging after what they did at Norfolk State. So I take Morgan State to win this one convincingly.
And last game of the day, a big one, South Carolina State and Howard. And Howard win would put them in a tie with South Carolina State and give the Bison a tiebreaker. So everything's still in play for the defending champs. But the Bulldogs have won 5 straight. Who do you have, Mitch?
Woo, this is a tough one. You know,
they're gonna look. Howard is gonna come for you. They always do.
The Bison always do.
Yeah.
You know, I think when it comes down to it, I've loved watching both of these teams ball out each week, right? And Howard has had a slip up in conference play, but I think for them ultimately, they're able to make stops on the outside with Kenny Gallup Jr. and of course Robert Jones III. We see what they have on the outsides, but Eric Phoenix has just been making it happen. So that's going to be a fantastic matchup to watch. With that being said, I'm going to go with South Carolina State in this game. I just think that Eric Phoenix has found the rhythm and is clicking with his receivers. Caden High has been helping them out along with the others on the outside boundaries for them, and they've been able to run the ball. So I think they'll be able to get the stops that they need in this game and put up enough points. I'm taking South Carolina State in a close one over Howard in this one to move to 3-0 in conference play. What about you?
I'm going to have to go with South Carolina State. I say South Carolina State because this is a team that jumped out 17-0 on a ranked Central team. You spoke of Eric Phoenix offensively, but defensively, they're getting the job done. Aaron Smith, 10 tackles. Ashad had a game-high 3 sacks, but also forced that fumble. So you speak of this team along with Chennis Berry, 5-game win streak. They are on a roll. And Chennis Berry is doing what he was supposed to do when he got here, and that was to win. So I like this South Carolina State team.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fantastic battle. 3:30 p.m. kick in the nation's capital. But before we go, let's take a look at the race to the Celebration Bowl coming up in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 14th. Still a lot to sort out, but State leads by a half a game. But Howard can enter the conversation here today with a win. North Carolina Central is off until next Friday when they play Howard, so never gets easier for the Bison. Morgan State at 1-1. They can also get into the race once again with a win, but Norfolk State 1-2. Delaware State sits at 0-2.
That's it for this week's episode. We are getting ready to switch on over to the Morgan State and Delaware State game now, and hope you do too. We will see you back here again next week for the next MEAC Countdown to Kickoff presented by Coca-Cola. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you again for these awesome chairs, Grand Furniture.